I was 16 in my junior year of high school. I had 9 periods in a school day. 5th period was lunch, and right after that was my astronomy class. My astronomy class was held in one of the 2 basement classrooms of the school. My high school was large with 3 floors, and even that wasn't enough to hold all the classes offered, so the school built 2 classrooms in the basement. It was honestly a bit eerie down there when no one else was around. It used to be a janitorial area, but it was remodeled to look more like a typical hallway. The only thing was, there were no intercoms or loudspeakers in the basement at that time. For that reason, no classes were held down there during first period for the morning announcements. Everyone called this little section of the basement the chamber, and everyone always tried to get classes down there because it was air-conditioned. The classes were usually easier, and it had its own bathroom. We had a quiz in astronomy that day. Usually, I was one of the first to finish just because I found the class easy. After I finished my quiz, I texted my friend, who was in the other basement classroom, to meet me in the bathroom because I was bored. He said okay. I walked out of the classroom and down the short hallway to the bathroom. A few seconds later, the door opened, and my friend, Sam, entered the bathroom. We were joking around for a while until Sam checked his phone and said someone texted him saying the school was going on lockdown. We both looked at each other with the same grins. Neither of our teachers saw us leave the classrooms, which meant we had free reign of the school during the lockdown. We agreed to sneak upstairs and wander the hallways just for fun. The worst that would happen is we'd explain how we couldn't hear the announcements in the basement classrooms. Upon opening the basement door to the main floor, we were surprised to find all the lights turned off, so the hallways were nearly pitch black, except for the light coming in from the doors in the lobby. This was unusual, because the lights were typically left on in the hallways during lockdowns. Something was happening, and we weren't sure if we were even comfortable walking around now. Sam stepped out a bit further into the hallway, and I followed. Sam then looked down the hall and said, "Who's that?" I looked, and emerging from the darkness was a man. At first, we couldn't tell if he was a teacher, but as he got closer, we realized this guy wasn't dressed like any staff member. He looked disheveled, like a vagrant. "Right, let's go," I told Sam as we hurried back to the basement. He definitely saw us, whoever he was. We saw both classrooms had their doors shut and lights off, so to avoid causing a scene, we decided to hide in the bathroom. I turned off the light first thing, and then we both went to hide in the corner stall. There was complete silence in the room. No ventilation, no heaters, nothing, just the sound of me and Sam breathing and an occasional drip from the sink. Suddenly, the door to the bathroom opened, and light from the hallway poured in for a brief moment. The door shut, and the bathroom was pitch black again. Sam and I tried our best to control our breathing. The room was so quiet that we could hear someone walking toward our side of the bathroom. The person stopped and started breathing heavily, as if out of breath. Sam and I were terrified. Sam did something foolish. He whispered in my ear, "We have to crawl out through the other stalls." The room was so silent that even Sam's whisper could be heard across the room. The heavy breathing outside the stall stopped, and the person tried pushing the stall door. That's when I whispered, "Go, go," to Sam. We both crawled under the sidewall to the next stall, then the next, and finally out to the other side of the bathroom. The person was now banging on the stall door. Sam and I jumped up, opened the bathroom door, and as the light filled the room again, we saw the man from upstairs in the corner. We pounded on the door to Sam's classroom. The teacher let us in within seconds. Sam explained everything as the teacher locked the door, mentioning a gun sticking out of the man's pocket. I was shocked to hear this because I didn't see a gun, but I went along with it anyway. Usually, a bunch of high school students would be laughing at 2 students causing a scene like this, but I noticed all the kids sitting in the corner looked concerned. A sudden bang at the door made everyone jump, and a couple of girls squealed in fear. Sam the teacher, and I could see the man standing at the door, looking through the window while trying the doorknob. After a few angry bangs on the door, he turned and walked down the hallway back to the stairs. We don't know how much longer the lockdown lasted, but for over an hour. We sat in silence in the room, except for the teacher occasionally asking Sam and me questions in a very concerned tone, shaking his head after everything we told him. Eventually, someone from upstairs called the teacher, and he instructed us to walk single file up the stairs and out of the building, where we were greeted by police. Sam and I did our best to describe the man to the police and the dean. One of the officers patted me on the back, and we were sent home. After this incident, the school installed cameras everywhere and increased the security budget. This incident never got media attention, so we never found out if the police caught the guy. I'm convinced that man had no intention but to harm us in that bathroom stall. I'm a retired New Jersey police officer. Throughout my 20 years on the force, the most disturbing call I ever received was for a school lockdown at a nearby middle school, which I'll leave unnamed for legal reasons. It happened on a stormy, dark day. My car number was called on the radio to respond to a lockdown where a suspicious-looking man was seen stepping out of a white van parked behind the school and entering through the back door by the boys' locker room. I pulled up to the back parking lot of the school, right next to the white van. No one was inside, and all the doors and trunk were locked. I opened the red back door that led into the gym hallway near the locker rooms. The main lights were off, so the entire school was dark. I unholstered the flashlight from my belt and used it to navigate the halls. I reached the lobby, where a woman emerged from the front office, quietly telling me to check the boys' locker room, but to be careful, because the person might be armed. I called for backup on my radio, and was assured it was already on the way. I returned to the hallway I entered from and found the boys' locker room right next to the exit. I pushed the door open quietly. There were no windows, so there was no light in the locker room except for my flashlight. There was a white noise from a vent on the ceiling blowing air, but even over that, I heard faint scratching or small dings on the locker doors from the other side. I was supposed to announce my presence as a police officer, but honestly, I was too scared. The tension in the room was overwhelming. I held my flashlight in one hand and my gun in the other as I moved to the other side of the locker room. It seemed like the dings and thuds were always coming from the opposite side of where I was. I was standing in the corner of the locker room, near the bathroom door, when the sound of someone slamming a locker door in another room startled me. I moved toward the sound and realized it came from the boys' football team locker room. There was no door separating the main locker room from the football locker room, and the lockers there were 3 times larger. I finally gathered the courage to shout, "Police!" After shouting, a kid started screaming, "Help!" from somewhere in the room, though it was muffled. The kid pounded on a locker door on the other side of the row I was in. When I realized the boy was trapped inside a locker, I felt sick to my stomach. I told him I'd be right back, called for backup again, and ran outside to where the white van was. It was gone. My biggest mistake was not getting the plate number right away. I told dispatch to look out for a suspicious white van. I ran back into the school and instructed the staff in the front office to end the school day and send someone with a key to the locker room to free the boy. The boy was held by the man with a knife to his back, as I suspect the man was quietly trying to get the 12-year-old to his van. The boy was bleeding from his arm where the man had cut him while he resisted. The man's van was spotted a week later in a convenience store parking lot, where he was arrested after being properly identified. I was staying at a hotel in New Jersey while visiting a university, a college I was considering attending. My family couldn't come, so I was alone. After attending campus tours, I grabbed dinner at a nearby restaurant and returned to the hotel around 8 in the evening, planning to visit the campus again the next day. About an hour after returning to my room, a strange alarm went off, along with a white light flashing from the corner of the ceiling. Shortly after, a message began looping, saying something like, "All hotel guests, please remain in your rooms." This is a lockdown. I'd never heard of a lockdown in a hotel and didn't even know hotels had alarms like this. I found it more intriguing and exciting than anything else. Eventually, the alarm sound stopped, but the light kept flashing, and every 20 seconds or so, the message repeated. It was only around 9:30, so I turned on the TV for background noise while I changed clothes and brushed my teeth. I turned off the lights when I was done and got under the covers. I watched TV for half an hour before turning it off. The light was still flashing with an annoying bright white every few seconds, and it was definitely going to make sleeping difficult. I was considering calling the front desk to ask what was happening when the phone rang. It was someone from the front desk. I expected them to tell me something about the alarm and when it would stop, but instead, the person spoke in a very concerned voice. She told me to stay calm and walk out the door. I took the chance to ask what was going on. She explained that there was someone in the room with me, and to get out immediately. I dropped the phone and instinctively started looking around. Part of me was curious to see if someone was actually in the room. I checked under the bed and looked in the empty bathroom. Nobody in either place. Then I noticed the closet door next to the bathroom. It was one of those closets with a wooden sliding door, open just a tiny crack. Through that crack, I could see a person's face. At first, it didn't fully register, but when the door slid shut, I panicked and ran out the door. The people at the front desk showed me security footage from an hour earlier of a suspicious-looking man wandering the hallways, apparently searching for a specific room. When he reached my door, he opened it with a card he had somehow obtained, and that was it. I stayed as the authorities took the person out in handcuffs. It was a man on the shorter side, easily in his 40s. He looked at me as he passed, as if he knew who I was. It's terrifying to think he may have been watching me for over an hour from that closet.